everyone. Welcome to Forum Friday. Today I have Mark with me and we are going to dive into the forums. But before we go there, congratulations, Mark, for being a BAKERpedia influencer.
Thank you. It's
you
fun.
launched a premiere this morning. That was awesome.
Yep. It's
looking
cool.
forward to all your good work and sharing your knowledge.
It'll be great. We've all been looking forward to it. It's been great for me to get to know Gideon and Oprah some more as well. And like I keep teasing her, Oprah's my friend. Right? No, it's fantastic. I mean, they're very, very skilled, very knowledgeable, and this is going to be really interesting and great for the industry.
So for the people who don't know what a BAKERpedia influencer is, can you summarize what you've done for BAKERpedia to make you a BAKERpedia influencer?
Well, I've been basically busy with the forum, and at the same time, we're doing things for our various sponsors as far as doing support in promoting their products, but also helping them with supporting their customers. When they've had issues with a customer or a challenge, they can reach out to us and say like, hey, my customer is having this difficulty. What advice do you have? What could you do to help me? So we use our connections through social media to help leverage all of that and to help see what support we can provide. So we're using our knowledge and experience as well as all of our influence and connections through the internet, so that when you connect with us, you're connecting with 15,000 plus people.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to point out. Between the four of us, we have over 15,000 connections on social media. So that's awesome. You know, so if you are planning to launch a new ingredient technology or new piece of equipment, you know, have one of us do it for you, you know. So that's the kind of effect that we have, the ripple effect in the industry. So I do look forward to seeing you bake some more and share your skills and your knowledge. And I also want to share with everyone on here on what you do at the forums. You know, what's been going on at the forums.
Yep. And we've had some activity this week. We've had a new conversation getting started. And my favorite, always see what really the main purpose of this forum is to have a forum of dialogue. And there's two continuing conversations that are taking place as well, where myself and others are kind of pitching in, and that way we all learn together. And again, it's another way of leveraging all of these connections, right? So for the new conversation we have is Roy is trying to find the ways to create the perfect gluten network, right? And Roy is not a man of a lot of words, but it's excellent. He added pictures, right? So that is always very helpful. So though, all kidding aside,
picture is an international language, I guess.
It really helps with language barriers and explanations, and you know, it's the old expression: "A painting is 1,000 words," right? And so Roy is developing a potato roll, like a hamburger bun roll, to be used in a restaurant. And he says in his country, I'm not exactly sure which country he's in, but he's having difficulty that there isn't anything around there. So this is a market niche that he's creating for himself. So he posted pictures of what the commercial target is of like a North American hamburger bun, and what he is targeting using his potato roll. And the main difference we see in the picture is the crumb structure. So what Roy is referring to as the gluten network. And so his roll, the crumb structure is a little more open and uneven, so somewhat irregular, right? Okay. And I would say that probably one of the things, if he doesn't want to change absorptions or things like that, is to increase fat and or add some monodiglycerides. And
Absolutely.
this will really help to even out the crumb, because the fat is going to tighten up those air bubbles a little bit. And the monodiglycerides, when it emulsifies all of this fat and the sugars into the system, it helps you produce a more even crumb, so that the size of the bubbles is more the same everywhere, right? And that would probably be the first thing I would take a look at to see how that goes, right?
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, he is not automated, is he?
It doesn't mention that. That is, he just says, he mentioned that he's testing different products from different manufacturers, and so he's what helps it to be formed is what he's looking at. That so that
automated. Put in some of those nice dough conditioners, and you get you get crumb elevation to the next level.
Yep. And and that again, if we know a little bit more about which region he's in, that helps us direct him to the sponsors or suppliers and things we know of in that area that can very quickly help him, right?
Correct.
And because it's no point in recommending somebody who only services North America if he's in Africa, right? And then we have also a relatively new question, and that is this is a sticky question.
Really?
So Glana is having trouble with her doughs getting sticky. I'm not sure their dough, right? They were having a smooth product line and things are running smooth, but when they reduce the water content, the dough sticks to the dough cutter.
That is really a sticky problem.
That's a very sticky situation. So there's so many things this could be. More information. So if it is a more complex challenge, one of the things to always remember is that you can reach out to us through BAKERpedia. And if you click on Ask a Baking Question, right, and you can purchase 30 minutes or 60 minutes of consulting time if you don't need a full several days on site or things like that. And of course, you can also purchase full on site if it's a bigger challenge to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many things when you reduce the water amount. The first thing we're going to ask is why? Why did you reduce the water amount? I mean, did the flour change?
Everything from flour, starch damage to roundabars, new roundabars to everything. There's so many issues to deal with.
And so it can affect the concentration of things in the formula. It can affect mixing. It can affect dough temperature, and all of these things can have different fallouts and relative to why the dough becomes sticky. And so it's kind of understanding why you're doing this in terms of, helping you with your goals. And then we can kind of figure out, okay, then maybe in the end, dough stickiness is not really the problem. It's trying to achieve ABC is the actual problem that we can help you with, right?
Hey, if all else fails, just throw in a bunch of oxidizers.
Yes.
Problem solved.
There's always the kitchen sink. I have dealt with some of those formulas too, where like 8 different suppliers have made 8 different recommendations, and they're all in there, right? And the product developer has no idea why it's all there, right?
I've been in those situations so many times, and this is the problem with the knowledge gap, right? Because you bring in a product developer who has no idea how that formula came about, but plant A uses it and wants to design it for plant B, but they don't have the same equipment. So since plant A has already this oxidizer, we'll include the oxidizer. No, it's different. If you have equipment that's different, you need different oxidizers. If you have sponge and dough systems, you have different oxidizers for straight dough systems, and product developers don't understand that. And if you have this problem, if you are a product developer and you don't understand that, come to the forums, ask those questions. It's not stupid to ask those questions. I mean, it's not stupid if you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're on purpose that you don't know. It's like you just don't know.
Yes, and that makes it, if you don't mind me taking a moment here, it reminds me of a funny story that I experienced, and almost in a flip side way of exactly what you're speaking about in terms of the plants, multiple plants with ingredients. And I was in a plant to run a trial, and we couldn't get in to run the trials until like after 5 o'clock in the evening. And so we basically thought we had everything lined up to run this trial and so on. And we start going into production, and then the product development manager that I was working with, he's like, okay, well, I want to try this batch too, this formula. And he's like, oh, where's this so-and-so stuff, right? And it's like, oh, well, we requested it, but and then they started making phone calls, and they find out this ingredient that he wanted to use that he thought was in a product in this other plant, the product is not even being made anymore. And so they didn't have the ingredient. And so like, now what are we going to do, right? And but fortunately, I knew of a supplier that was nearby that had another very similar ingredient to provide an understanding the functionality he was looking for. That was what I understood, is so that it said, okay, well, I can make this call. I can have them get it here. It'll be here in no time if you want me to do that. And so we went ahead and did it. And that way we didn't lose all this time to run the trial, because sometimes in plants, it can take weeks before you can schedule a trial. And I had to fly there from Illinois. He had to fly in from another state as well. That's a lot of time and money tied up. So you really want to make sure you have all of your ingredient understanding and ducks in a row, and not just use it because it's there or because you thought it was there. Right?
That's true. I tell you, that's why commercialization runs so long. Right? Mm-hmm. Last minute insertions. No. Thanks for sharing that story.
It's been really interesting. And the thing is, I know the product is in the pipeline, and yet it's still not in the market yet. So I think it got slowed down by COVID now, but it's just crazy, right? And because of confidentiality, I can't say more. But it's interesting. Once it's nice once it's in the market and you can tell people, hey, I helped make that, right? So
that's always so fun though. So what's the ingredients, and make sure that you don't bring the formula over from one plant to another without understanding the systems. That's just my suggestion.
Yeah, and that leads us into our last conversation that is ongoing with improving flavors and breads, and this is in the West African continent primarily. And so Goodwin was asking kind of about how much flour should I use in my sponge and so on. So if you go to BAKERpedia under processes, you can see all the recommendations there are for that, for the whole sponge and dough process. I mean, some people will use 50%, some go as much as the entire flour, right? It really varies. The same as the time.
Depends on your space constraints.
Yeah, your space, how big production you run, in terms of having to turn over the sponge room and all these kinds of things too, right? And then he was also asking about ascorbic acid and vinegar, and there again pointed to BAKERpedia on ascorbic acid, so he understands the uses and applications of that better. And vinegar is more used for pH lowering and as an antimicrobial control most of the time. Right?
I tell you, when someone tells me they want to add vinegar in your formula, I'm just like, you need to look at your whole process. You need to understand your whole process and understand what are you trying to achieve before you put that in, because that anyway stinks.
And because if you do a nice pre-ferment process, it doesn't even have to be sourdough, but if it's a good pre-ferment process, you're going to produce enough lactic acid that has a much better profile and targeting the microbes that you're trying to manage much better. It has an effect on crumb. I mean, I love, as you know, I always keep myself busy, and I enjoy baking at home. And my wife is always commenting. It's like, I buy that bread from the store, and it's like in a few days, it's either stale or moldy. And the bread you make all the time, it's like good for a week, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's like, well, yeah.
It's her way of telling you, husband, I don't want to buy store-bought bread anymore.
Yeah. She has a love affair with white Wonder Bread, so she still goes back to that every now and then. It's just her little treat, right?
So thank you for running the forums this last week. We should wrap it up. I wanted to share with everyone before we leave that we do have a class, a BAKERpedia class next week on CBD and baking, and it's going to be sponsored by Hembrice.
Yep.
And I'm going to do really interesting experiments on my site this weekend, Mark. I'm just going to be trying them out.
It's really there's so many health benefits that it's so good to see that this is finally starting to make its way.
I am so happy to see so much movement in this industry. So very excited. That's why I wanted to hold this class. Hopefully you can join us next week. And
I would love to. Yeah, I'll definitely be on.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really cool. I got to meet a couple of ladies at the baking conference a couple of years ago who were just kind of getting into the industry. They were product developers with companies who were just starting to promote hemp seed flour, hemp oils, and CBD oils and things like that. And it's really exciting, interesting stuff that's coming down the road.
Awesome. Yep. All right. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure. Yep. Have a great weekend, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.